All right. So we are now live, and our webinar jam is about to start any minute now. Hi, everyone. I am Ozioma of BurnBright, and I have
Tiffany Aliche of The Budgetnista.
uh, and we are so excited to have you joining us this evening for this Powerhouse Jam session. I know that you guys have joined us because you want to live, you want to ignite, you want to experience what it means to live a richer life. And I am so excited to have one of the foremost modern experts in this realm of being able to help people make that happen with me, and we're going to be soon starting into our official introductions. But what I wanted to do first and foremost, now that we are at the top of the hour, is to officially welcome you to the first ever BurnBright Powerhouse Jam session. And you may be wondering, what exactly is a Powerhouse Jam session? Well, it's a session where I bring some of the most, again, foremost experts who have just really powerful messages and really amazing strategies and advice to offer the world. And we spend an hour together. You, I, and them come together, and we just kind of rap, we connect, we learn from one another. You guys pose questions, and so at any point when you join the session, don't be afraid to introduce yourself and to just pose any questions that you may have. We're going to be asking you a couple of questions so that we can know a little bit more about you. But before I get any further, I want to introduce myself, and I want Tiffany to introduce herself. So here we go. My name is Ozioma of BurnBright. I am the founder and CEO of a company called BurnBright International, and it was founded in 2006 with the express mission of helping individuals, businesses, and communities reach their full potential. So what that means is I do personal coaching sessions for people's lives. I also do strategy sessions for people's brands and their businesses. And then I also engage communities where I help the community identify where their opportunities are and how they want to move forward. And so I'm really proud to be doing this work. I formerly was a vice president in corporate America, and I still work with quite a bit of corporate clients. But it is my mission at this point in time to really just connect and serve in a way that really empowers people to move forward with their dreams. And so now I'm going to pass it on to Tiffany, the Budgetnista, to introduce herself to you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for spending this time with us. My name is Tiffany Aliche, but much better known as The Budgetnista. I started The Budgetnista in 2008 and really started taking it full time about 3 years ago. The purpose of The Budgetnista is to teach financial education in a way that's really fun and engaging. I felt like so many other financial avenues for education really required you almost to have a financial degree in order to understand them. And I thought, how about I create a platform, a book, webinars, curriculum, just like an avenue for people to learn about finances in a way that was just really like fun, like me. And so I started the Budget Niece, and it's doing really well. I wrote a book about 3 years ago called The 1 Week Budget, and it's actually number 2, I think, on Amazon today. But it really helps people step by step on how to budget their money, how to save, how to pay off debt, how to fix their credit. And so now this is what I do full time as the Budget Niece, helping everyday people like you live richer lives. So welcome.
Oh, awesome, awesome. I'm so excited, and I'm just thrilled and delighted that we're starting to have more and more people joining. Don't hesitate to introduce yourself. It'll just allow for the experience to be much more dynamic and interactive. So before we get into the actual experience of the jam session, what I want you to do is, what I want to do is I want to kind of frame the experience for you. And so this jam session is really about a co-interview format. So that means I'm going to be asking Tiffany some questions, and she's going to be asking me some questions, and you, the audience, you guys are going to have the opportunity to learn through the way in which we're answering the questions. You're also going to have an opportunity to pose any questions that you may have at the end. So definitely get your pen and paper ready, because we're going to be sharing some really powerful strategies, and if you stay to the end, we promise that we are going to provide you with a special gift. So we're not going to reveal it until the very end. So you have to stay and you have to engage, and we promise that you will be properly rewarded for your dedication, okay? So I guess, do you want to just like hop right into the Q&A, Tiffany?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, awesome.
So everyone who knows me knows that my tagline is live richer. And I would like to know from you, Oziola, what would you consider, or what are the components of a richer life?
So the components of a richer life, for me, I think that a richer life is summed up in the philosophy that I've been so passionate about pushing forward in the world, which is all about burning bright. I believe that living a rich life is not just about how much money you actually make, but it's also about the quality of your life experience. That means being able to be more of who you know that you are truly meant to be, being able to experience more of the experiences that you want to have, and also being able to know that you're making an impact. I think our lives, we sometimes, we've gotten into this language of we're not just, we're not human beings, we're not human doings, we're human beings. And I always say that we're both. We are human beings, but we're also human doings. That means that we are people who really need to actually feel fulfilled on the realm of action, but we also need to feel fulfilled in the realm of just who we're showing up as, how we're being. So to me, living a richer life is really about being able to have a balance between your thoughts and your actions, what's happening on the inside, and also what you're able to cause on the outside. And by combining those two realms of opportunity, that two realms of existence, that's really how you live a richer life, when your thoughts and your actions and your internal yearnings, as well as what you're able to make happen in the world, all come together, and you really feel that you are completely shining and burning bright.
Well said. I like that one.
All right. So my question for you, Tiffany, is how can money be used as a tool to ignite a richer life?
So my definition for a richer life is to purposefully and passionately pursue your ideal life, your best life, and to use money as a tool to do so. So to me, unfortunately, people use money as the excuse of why they can't do this or they can't do that. Like, my budget won't allow, or we don't have enough for. So instead, I really see money as kind of like an activator, that if you budget correctly, I always say you change your budget, you change your life. So if you reduce spending on things that are not as important, you'll have much more than you'll need for the things that really make you feel good. So for example, there are 4 questions I say you should ask yourself before you spend any money. Do I need it, love it, like it, want it? And so your needs always come first, obviously. Food, shelter, clothing, water, those kind of things. Secondly, come your loves. And usually those are the things that people say they can't afford. Vacation, spending more time with their kids. I don't know, maybe you're a foodie and you love really nice restaurants. So what they do instead is that they use the rest of their excess money on things that I call your likes and your wants. And so that's like, fast food, or like little tchotchkes from your favorite discount retailer. And those things are literally robbing you of your needs and your loves. And so the way you use money as a tool is to really analyze your expenses and analyze your spending and look at really where your money is going. Pull up your bank statement. I always say, if I didn't know you and I've never met you, and you pulled up and I pulled out your bank statement, what would I think about you? Would I say, oh, this person loves Wendy's? Or, or this person loves books or Amazon? Like, or is your spending in alignment with your values? And so that's how you use your money as a tool. You should look at your spending, physically look at it. Pull up your bank statement online tonight and ask yourself, if someone did not know me, what would they think my values are? Am I using my money in a way that's in alignment with how I feel? You say your kids are so important. Is your bank statement reflecting that? You say that you really love movies. Is your bank statement reflecting that? Or do I see target, target, target? And so using your money as a tool means to pull back from your likes and your wants so you can invest more in your needs and your loves.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I think a lot of people don't realize how much the way in which they spend is really revealing who they are and how they're showing up and what they believe matters. Because, again, our life really is based upon our value systems. And if you, like you said, if we actually look at how we're spending, we can actually have a greater sense of awareness as to what we believe currently matters in our lives. So yeah, I
Exactly. So
love
I
that.
always have like a ton of budget needs to bracelets on because they say needs are greater than loves, loves are greater than likes, and likes are greater than wants. And so I give them out. I wear a ton because people stop me on the street and I give them one because sometimes you just need to pause for a moment. And sometimes, so this is just a great reminder like, is this need? Is this a love? Or is this merely a like or a want?
Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of times, the physio, the actual tangible tools that we wear to remind us of how we're supposed to show up in the world, as well as the way in which we have these mental models that help us think. I think both of those things are all really beneficial. But I also think one of the biggest tool is our hearts and our minds, right? How we're actually using the thoughts that come into our mind, and then also, what we're feeling inside of our heart and helping that guide us to make decisions that empower us to live that richer life that we're talking about this evening. So, okay, I'm loving this, getting into the conversation. And again, welcome to all the new people that are joining the webinar and the jam session. Please introduce yourself in the chat box and we'll be continuing. So go ahead. Do you
Okay.
want me to go or do you want?
No, I have one. I really like this one. So you have something called a story of worth, right? So I'm really curious to know what is your story of worth and how does someone develop a more empowering story of worth?
Okay. So when I talk about what's your worth story or the story of your worth, what I'm really speaking about is that I truly believe that we have a story running in our mind that impacts and affects the way in which we show up in the world. So as it relates to your finances or the world of abundance or financial freedom that you're trying to engage in, a lot of it is really about what's that story that you have about who you are and what you're entitled to in this world. And many of us have empowering stories of worth, and some of us have disempowering stories of worth. And what that really means is we have stories about our worth that says, you know what, go for it, girl, go for it, boy, make it happen. And then we have also stories that say, no, you're not worth it. No, you can't have it. No, it's not yours. And depending on what story you have running in your mind, in your system, in your heart, it'll determine how you show up to claim the opportunities that are available for you. So for me, I remember, when I was growing up, because I came from, I'm originally from Nigeria, born there, raised in America. But there were many times when, because I was raised in a family with 4 other brothers and sisters, that there were things that I wanted that I was told I couldn't have. I remember one time specifically about this eraser that I really, really, really wanted, and I was basically made to feel that I couldn't have it. And so as I was growing up, it was always apparent to me that I wasn't entitled to have the beautiful things that I saw around me. And it wasn't until I started to become aware of that story that that belief that was formed when I was just a young child was actually keeping me from being able to go for things. I had to say to myself, well, what is the story of what I believe I'm entitled to or what I believe I'm worth? And how is that impacting the way in which I go after my own goals and dreams? And so it wasn't until I started to build my own self-worth through reading books, through doing a lot of, meditation, through also just being able to get clear on what my priorities were, that I was then able to say, you know what, I want to live a life on purpose. I want to be purposeful with my actions, and I want to build my own sense of self-worth to feel more confident and to be able to go for what I know is truly important to me and that I know that I deserve. And so when we talk about being able to build, your self-worth, it really starts from you being honest with yourself and being clear that, wait, where am I right now with how I feel about myself? Do I feel capable of being able to ask and put myself forth and really stand for what I believe in, whether it's with my boss, with my significant other, with my children? Really being able to get a clear sense as to how you're showing up in terms of how you feel worthy to claim all that's available for you in this life. And then it's about asking yourself, what actions am I taking that are affirming my ability to do that? Do you find that in certain situations you're constantly shrinking, or you're telling yourself, no, I'm not going to ask for that, no, this is okay, constantly settling and shrinking back? Or do you find that you're actually moving forward and taking bolder risks? So I would say the first way in which you start to get a sense as to what your story of your worth is really by noticing how you're showing up. And a lot of times with my clients, the first thing I do is I put them through a noticing exercise where, depending on what area of transformation they want to take, I say, notice how you show up in that area for 1 week. See what creates joy, see what detracts from joy. And then from there, be able to note that. And then we start to work on the transformation. And a lot of that is really about once you've gotten a sense as to what the current story is, then you have to identify how do I want to change that. And that's when I get into this area, what I call the success criteria. Identify what is one action that you are willing to take in order to move towards a story of more confidence and self-worth. And that may be, you know what, I'm going to eat foods that nourish me, or I'm going to, affirm myself in this relationship and tell him or her what my needs really are. So I really believe that creating that new story is usually based on first getting clarity and then taking action.
It's funny you say that because I remember that for some reason, even though when I was a preschool teacher, I used to make good amount of money and I never traveled. I don't know why, even though it was something I always wanted to do. And then I told myself I couldn't afford it. But maybe it was really so much that I thought I didn't deserve to. And as soon as I lost my job, one of my great friends, her name is Diesa, I met her post losing my job. And she used to travel everywhere. And this girl had next to no money. And I thought, how is she making this possible? How is she making this happen? And because in her mind, she thought, I travel. This is just what I do. And so she would find people would pay for her travel. She would volunteer and she would get a free ticket. These things were always being drawn to her. And I remember she helped me book like one of my very first flights. I mean, I traveled before like to Nigeria and stuff, but like by myself. I went to California with her. She was running the marathon. And I remember I was so scared to press the send button. And I did, and I went. And I mean, it was just California. It wasn't like I was going to Mars. But when I got back, it activated this I travel. So since then, I've been to literally, I think about 16, 17 different countries since then. From that one pressing of the button saying, you are worth it, you can travel. It's okay, Tiffany. And it's been amazing since. But yeah,
it's really
a powerful thing.
That's exactly what it is. It's about, being able to shift the story. And once you shift the story, you then shift the trajectory of your life. Like I know for me, when it comes to traveling, I remember I used to be a commercial producer and I was working at a company called Saatchi & Saatchi, and we did a Saatchi & Switch program where I ended up, working in London. And I remember I wanted to go to Paris and I wasn't giving myself permission to do it. And my friend was like, you don't know when you're going to be back on this side of the world. You need to go to Paris. And just by being able to shift and say yes, okay, giving myself permission, it activated so many other countries for me. So I always say, you have to be willing to, listen to others when they're giving you great advice and say, you know what, I give myself permission to experience this.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Awesome. So that question just totally got me all like jazzed up. I hope it got you guys online who are listening and watching with us, that you're excited to hear this information. And also that you start to think to yourself, what are you not giving yourself permission to do and experience, right? And what do you now want to give yourself permission to do? So as we're sharing these insights and this information, you should be taking it into yourself and seeing how you can stretch and grow as a result of the insights that we're sharing with each other. Because that's the reason why we're sharing, is because we want you to feel that you can be more, that you can really ignite that richer life for yourself, okay? So the next question that I have for you, Tiffany, is how does someone get started with getting out of debt?
So there's an old adage that says, if you find yourself in a ditch and you want to get out, first thing first, you stop digging. And it seems to make like perfect sense when you're in a ditch and you have your shovel and you're like, oh, I'm in this ditch, and you keep digging. Duh, stop digging. But when it comes to debt, people are like, I'm in terrible credit card debt, Tiffany, as they're swiping their credit card to buy McDonald's today. So if you are in debt, you are not going to be able to get out of debt unless you stop using your cards or using whatever the method is that you are getting yourself into debt with. It's usually credit cards. So that's first thing. So take your credit cards. I'm not saying cancel them, but take them out of your wallet, leave them home, put them in the freezer, put them somewhere where you will not have easy access to them. If you have, some people have their credit card numbers memorized, then go get a new, order a new credit card and then put that one in the freezer because you won't have that one memorized. You have to stop digging because it doesn't make sense to pay, $200 every month on your credit card bill and spend $250. So that's first. Second, you want to really look at your debt and list it from lowest to highest. A lot of gurus will tell you that you should pay off your debt, your interest, the ones with the highest interest rates first. And I say, well, debt is an emotional reaction to something. So I like to use your emotions to help you pay it off. So instead of paying off the debt that is the most expensive first, I say you want to pay off the debt that's the lowest first because you'll have early success. So if your lowest debt is $200 and you're able to pay that off in a month, you're gonna feel good. It's like deciding that you're gonna exercise and you tell yourself, when I lose a pound, I'll celebrate versus I'll wait till I lose 10 pounds. So you want early success. So list your debt from lowest to highest and focus on each debt individually. So if you're focused on the lowest debt, everything else on your list is going to get its minimums. People kind of like push away from that because they like to do minimum plus a little, minimum plus a little. If you're giving debt on your list, it's minimum plus a little, you're never really going to pay it off. You need to focus on one debt at a time. So gather all that extra that you're giving to the other debt on your list and give it to the smallest debt that you have, because it might be 200. So you might be able to pay that off in one payment. And then the magic is whatever you're giving to that smallest debt on your list, you want to roll over that payment to the next smallest debt. Mm-hmm. So if you were able to find an extra $70 from your budget to put towards your debt, and that's what you're giving to the first debt on your list, and you paid it off, do your little happy dance. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that $70 plus the minimum that you were giving to the first debt and give it to the second debt on your list. Mm-hmm. So now the second debt is going to get its minimum, the first debt's minimum, plus that $70 from your budget, and you're going to automate that payment. So all of a sudden, the second debt is getting way more money than it's ever gotten before. And so you might pay that off in 6 months, 7 months, 3 months, whatever. Once it's paid off, do your little happy dance, and then you roll over those payments again. So now the third debt gets first debt's minimum, second debt's minimum, its minimum, plus that $70. So you see what happens? It's called the snowball effect. And what happens is as you get to larger and larger debts, you're collecting minimums along the way and maintaining that $70 that you found from your budget. And you'll be debt-free, not in no time, but certainly in a shorter period of time. I racked up like $35,000 in credit card debt. I know, in my mid-20s. Mind you, it wasn't even totally, well, it was my fault, but it wasn't because I spent frivolously. I wish it was. A friend of mine told me that he wanted to teach me how to invest and that I should use other people's money and I should take the money off my credit cards. Yeah, not the best idea I've ever had.
Oh my gosh.
I did. And so I went from having zero credit card debt to having over $20,000 worth of credit card debt. And I didn't know what to do because I had never had to deal with debt before. And so that's the method that I used. I had 3 credit cards, and collectively they were like, like I said, over $20,000, and I slowly but surely paid them down. In about 2.5, a little under 3 years, I was able to get rid of them. It was a stressful time, but it works. And like I said, if you just collect minimums along the way and focus on each debt at a time, you'll be debt-free sooner than you think.
Wow. So as you can see, we are really speaking from experience. My story is I've never really had debt, and I'm not trying to, say that to, say, woo, woo, so is me. But I had the one piece of advice my mother always gave me was, and maybe it was because she was like, Nigerian mom, but she was always saying, if you can't buy it in cash, don't buy it. Mm-hmm. So it was always about saving it before. Granted, you had to delay gratification, but you had to have the cash or have it backed up, and then you come with your little, whatever you've saved, and then you buy it there. So she had this whole thing about cut your coat according to your size. So she was definitely was not maybe not the budgetnista. She was the frugalista. Because it was like, no, if you don't have it backed up, you're not buying it. Granted, when you have bigger purchases, it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. But I mean, in terms of large scale debt, I think what I love that you're highlighting is it really is about the strategy. Yeah. Life becomes, you really live a richer life, and you ignite that within yourself when you start to identify what are those best practices, what are those strategies that you can employ in order to really maximize your life experience. So thank you so much, Tiffany, for that amazing strategy that you know from having lived it. So kudos to you.
Thank you. All right, so my question to you is, how is self-awareness tied to wealth? And exactly really how define wealth for us, and then really, how is self-awareness, how does that define wealth for you?
So again, to me, wealth and living that wealthy life is not just about, like I said before, a financial number, nor is it really about strictly how you feel inside. But I do believe it's kind of like a combination. But it's only a combination based off of what you value. So to me, wealth is really about being able to feel abundant according to what you truly care about. So you can have wealth in specific areas of your life. So here's an example. If you know that for you, you know, feeling wealthy is really about being able to partake in sumptuous, really tasty, exotic meals, and you're able to do that, and you're able to create that level of experience and abundance in your life, then guess what? As it relates to eating in that kind of way, you are a wealthy person on that level. Okay, if for you, you know, some people, their version of wealth is, or feeling abundant is having, you know, tons of shoes or tons of, you know, Nike sneakers, whatever that is. It's really about being able to, based off of what you care about and what you value, are you having the full amount of it? Do you feel like your cup is full and even, you know, overflowing with that opportunity, right? Or with that experience. And so self-awareness, again, is really about being able to have that consciousness as it applies to what you care about and how much of it you're getting to experience. Hence why you have people who have tons of money in the bank, but they feel poor. Okay, and that's my story. I was one of those people where, you know, I was working, you know, this corporate vice president job, and I just was not spending. And I did not feel wealthy, even though I was working really hard and I was experiencing what you would call wealth, but I didn't feel wealthy because I had not actually thought about and really sat with what mattered to me. But the more that I started to get clear on what I valued and I started to do more of that, then I started to really feel that the money in my bank account and the experience that I was living was truly in alignment. And so to me, true wealth is really an alignment of, you know, value systems and experience. And that's really where the two meet. And to the extent that you can actually align what you care about and what you value with the experience that you're living, obviously not to the point where you're lying to yourself or you're creating false wealth, you know, because you also have that you know, the shadow side of wealth, right, or what we would call wealth, where you are saying you care about certain things and you're going into debt in order to experience that. And that is not true wealth. True wealth is being able to have that clarity of vision, and that's where the awareness, self-awareness comes in. Being able to see your reality and see what you're up to very clearly and making choices that serve you. And the more that you do that, the more you will really truly be able to have that full experience of feeling abundant and feeling wealthy, and also being clear about what that means for you and also how you can actually sustain it. Because I do believe that when we start to get into the realm of true wealth, you start to think about the more long-term view. It's not just about let me acquire it, let me just have it, and then it, you know, boom and bust. It's really about how do I actually operate as a trustee or a shepherd, you know, a steward of that process, a steward of that experience that you're seeking to really maximize and prolong and optimize during the course of your life.
You're right, because, you know, I mean, sometimes like the less money I've had, then the wealthier I felt, you know, like when I didn't have much, I was able to travel. I'm able to travel now. I mean, I'm doing better now with the Budgetnista, but when I first started, I wasn't, and yet I traveled extensively. It's because I started to really look at what did I value, and I started to design my life. You know, I think so many of us are just living, and we don't realize that you are a master creator and that you are manifesting the things that are happening to you, whether you're doing so intentionally or unintentionally, you're still manifesting those things. And once I began to realize that, like, oh, you know, my life looks like this because this is what I've created. And I've created it in my heart, in my soul, in my mind. And if I can change my heart and my soul and my mind, which I can, then I can create something else. And once I began to do that, I realized, like, you know, there's wealth all around. And even making money became not easy, but not this big, arduous task, you know, because I started to realize that I started to not look at money as the end goal, but as a tool. So if I want to go to Paris and Paris is going to cost me $2,000, okay, so I need to get a gig that's going to pay me $2,000. Okay, done. Versus like, I want to make $2,000. you
Exactly.
know?
And
So
that's,
yeah.
I think you really raise a point. Again, when we start to think about the lifestyle design, when we start to come at, a lot of times when people work with me, what they're coming to me for is to create what's known as a master plan. And it taps
Mhm.
into exactly what you're talking about, Tiffany, in terms of visualizing that end state, visualizing that full story that you want to live into. And then what are the actions that need to be taken in order to have and be and experience that? Because what you hinted on is that wealth is not really a thing. It's more of an emotion and an experience,
Mhm.
and if you start to really understand that wealth is an experience, then as a master creator and a master manifester and someone who can find the strategies and create the strategies in order to have that experience, life itself becomes so much more inventive, innovative, creative, and just so much more fun. Because
Mhm.
now you're not sitting here, with this limited perspective. You're starting to realize, wow, like you said, if I want to get to Paris, how many inventive ways can I engage in order to get there? And then
Mhm.
afterwards, you start to, right, tap
Mhm.
yourself on the back and say, yes, I used everything that I'm endowed with in order to achieve my end result. And you deserve everything from that because you brought it to life, and life will give it right back to you.
Mhm.
Awesome. So let's see. Wait, my question for you is, what is the biggest mistake that most people make as it relates to their wealth building strategies?
The biggest mistake is really not getting started. I think that's with everything. It's really not getting started. What happens is that people tell themselves, either they tell themselves later, or they tell themselves, I don't know how, or they tell themselves, I'm too busy. And not getting started, it's like, I always say this when it comes to parents teaching their children about money. The 3-year-old that doesn't understand about money becomes the 6-year-old, becomes the 15-year-old, becomes the 20-something-year-old, becomes the 30-year-old still living on your couch. When do you begin? And so when it comes to building wealth, the sooner you can start. If you're 3 years old and you're putting aside 10% of the money grandma gives you every year for your birthday into a little piggy bank, that's a great time to start. Because wealth has this, like, it's like a snowball that, there's compound interest. As you start to put aside and set aside, the earlier you start, then the less you actually have to do. People don't start thinking about building wealth, or at least, thinking about their future as it relates to money, almost until it's too late sometimes. You're 50, 60 years old, and it's not completely too late, but you're certainly not going to have the lifestyle that you could have had, because if you would have started at 20, 21, you could have had a huge nest egg. It could have survived the ups and downs of the stock market or investing or whatever it is that you want to place it in. So I just say get started. I mean, getting started is a tool and a muscle. I wasn't always like this self starter, go getter, so I had to practice at that. And so once you get started in other areas of your life, because I find when people are not self starters with their money, you're probably not starting in other areas. So once you get the practice of starting, building wealth, and you get the practice of starting pursuing your passion, then you get the practice of starting to travel or what other things that you have on your plate. Don't wait. I mean, because you just don't want to say that you didn't do it. Remember, this woman gave me the best piece of advice. I remember I was saying, should I go to school or should I, not? She said, you know what? 3 years is going to pass anyway. 3 years is going to, that's how long it took me to get my master's. So 3 years is going to pass. Now, is it going to pass with me in school, or is it going to pass and at the end I'm the same Tiffany I was 3 years ago? So always remember that time, 10 years, 2 years, 1 year, it's going to pass anyway. But how will you meet, 3 years from now? Are you going to be in exactly the same place, or are you going to try something different? Just get started.
I love that, because it really does speak to, that phrase that people always use whenever they're talking about self work, right? Do the work,
Mm-hmm.
get started, do the work. At the end of the day, if you're not going to start to build what they call those attitudinal muscles, right? The way in which you start to exercise the capacity to live richer, the capacity to really be a self starter, the capacity to just go out and get it, but I do believe that, that term get started, it's hard to get started if you are not sparked or ignited by something greater. So I think they have to get started by accessing some kind of inspired vision, some kind of possibility that they can see for themselves and say, you know what, I want to learn how to ignite a richer life, or, build internal wealth in this particular area of my life, because I see what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard. I think a lot of times when people don't get started, it's because they just don't, they have not really ignited their imagination to really be able to, on a, an emotional and physiological level, embody, whatever it takes to make that thing happen. Because a lot of times, for someone who's never really tried to, create a budget or live in a way that is, fiscally responsible, that seems like a lot of work. So, I mean, what strategy, and this is kind of going off script from the questions, but what strategy do you feel people can engage in order to get started, like you said?
So if it's just with just basic money, then you have to, first of all, you want to know, where is my money going? So getting started, it doesn't have to be complicated. A pen, piece of paper, write down everything that you spend your money on. So think of your bills first, like utilities, rent, that kind of thing. And then think of like other expenses like grooming, toiletry, transportation, write down those things. And then a budget should be a picture of a period of time. And the best period that you could think of is a month. So then if you want to look at your list, I call this the money list. And then you're going to want to write down, how much is everything on my money list costing me a month? Now, something like the water bill, you might only pay every 3 months, but it's still costing you monthly. So if you pay $90 every 3 months, that's $30 a month. Write that down. Let's get a monthly picture of what your life is costing you. And that's kind of like your checkup. I tell people all the time, like if you went to the doctor and said, oh, I'm not feeling well, and he didn't check you out and he gave you like heart medication, you would be like, you didn't even check me out. Like, how do you know what's wrong? The same thing, people will say, well, Tiffany, can you help me? I want to travel more. I want to this. Well, you haven't done a checkup. Do your money list. Make the list of everything you spend money on, everything. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, eating out, hanging out, drinks on the weekend. You smoke cigarettes, put that down. You have kids, put all of their expenses down and figure out the monthly amount that you spend. People say, oh, I don't know. Your money knows. Pull up your bank account and take a look. Write it down and then add up how much you are spending monthly on average to run your life. Many people are going to be over what their take-home pay is saying. So you might take home $4,000 a month and your money list adds up to $5,000. And you're like, this is not possible. It is, because what you're probably doing is you're using credit cards to get by, or you're paying things late, or you're like, your rent is due on the 1st and you get paid on the 1st. So you're like just making it. And so it's quite possible to spend more. Most people are doing that, spending more than what they make. So once you look at your list, it's like, my father would say, like, me and Ozium are both Nigerian, so there's always a Nigerian phrase. So he would say, all roads lead to Rome. And so Rome used to be like the center of the world at one point. It was like the capital of the world. And so every road, if you were in that part of the world, if you kept walking long enough, it would lead you to Rome. So that's your money list. All of your financial roads, everything that you do with your money comes back down to that money list, which is just a budget. So can I afford a car? Let me look on my money list. What's left over after all my spending? Is there car money left over? No, you can't get a car. Can I get a house? Are you saving a mortgage? People think that money is going to magically appear. No, if you add up what you're spending a month now, minus your rent, and it's not a mortgage payment left over after you take your spending from your take-home pay, then you cannot afford a house. You're not going to magically find that money. And so start with your money list. Simple paper and pencil, list everything you spend money on. How much does it cost you a month? Add it up and subtract it from your take-home pay. That's your get started.
Wonderful. I love it. Awesome. So where are we now? I'm just trying to think about, is it me or is it you?
I think it was me, but I think I'll go for you.
Okay.
So, what character trait, I like this one. What character trait lends itself to a strong sense of self-esteem and self-worth?
Well, I mean, there's many character traits that are important when you're trying to really build that, story of your worth or overall self-worth and self-confidence. But I would say the one that comes to me right now is really resilience. Because at the end of the day, if you truly are committed to living a richer life, to really being able to show up and enjoy life at the level that you truly are meant to enjoy life at, it's going to take being resilient, because it's not going to happen overnight. And you need to know that there's going to be times when you flat out don't really make the cut, where you may consider that you failed. And that resilience factor, that resiliency will kick in and really say, you know what, I may be down right now, but I'm not out. I may not have reached the mark this time, but I'm coming back again and I'm coming back stronger. I really do believe that the people who stay with it, really continue to do the work, continue to stay committed to living that richer life, stay committed to living a life where they build confidence moment by moment, day by day. Those are the ones who really do get there, because we don't realize that, and it's kind of similar to what we spoke about earlier, that every single choice you make, every single action you take is either moving you in the direction of your dreams and moving you towards living that amazing life, or it's actually keeping you from living that. And so as you start to become aware of the choices you're making and you stay committed and resilient to continuing to elevate the level of your choice, you will elevate the level of your self-worth, and you will elevate the quality of your life experience. So igniting that richer life, igniting that and sparking really a life that's what I love to call live with, illuminated life, right? That's lived with power and joy. It really does come from every moment trying to choose and trying to the best of your ability, engage with people, experiences, things, everything, just kind of helping to curate that overall experience. And so I would say resiliency is what you need, right? That commitment to knowing that no matter what it takes and no matter what I need to do, I'm going to keep coming back and back and back again in order to see the beautiful life that I know I'm meant to live, just see it through. So yes, resiliency.
I like that. You're right, because there's so many things that seem like they don't go in your direction. I remember reading one of the books that really helped me to understand that was The Alchemist. I'm sure you've read it.
Yes.
That I tell everybody I call my friends dream catchers. And so I don't like the word dream chasing because words mean things. And dream chasing means that you are constantly in pursuit of, and a dream catcher is someone who is in possession of their dream. And so if you're a dream catcher, which I suspect you are because you're here, then reading The Alchemist, it's such a great book because it talks about that resiliency, that to me, the journey and the dream are one and the same. That you're not chasing after a specific thing. It's this never ending, kind of journey. And once you realize that, I'm racing through for what? There is no end. You're just going to race forever and ever. So you might as well, to go along this path and enjoy each and every step of the way, and know that even the pitfalls are really set up for the next thing. That even the mistakes that you make, like me investing with that friend, what happened was that I wrote the best chapter of my book as a result, because I didn't know how to dig my way out of debt. I'd never had it before. And so when I messed up, then it helped me to figure out a way and helped me to write that chapter of the book. And I'm certain that that's one of the reasons why the book does so well now, because people tell me that chapter really resonates with them. And so, what seemed like a mistake then really wasn't. It really was something that, helped me to take myself to the next level. And if I wasn't resilient, if I gave up during those times, then I wouldn't, be able to live my dream now. So yeah, I like that resilience.
It's so interesting because Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist, has this quote that I always use. I even mentioned I did a TEDx Brooklyn talk in 2012, and his quote that I opened it up with was that every single one of us have a personal legend to be fulfilled. And when we realize that our financial freedom and the life and that journey that we want to live and experience and express is really part of a personal legend. And that legend is being curated and created through the choices you're making in terms of how you build yourself from the inside out, because that's what this is all about. It's like, it does not benefit you to have all these riches on the external level of life if you are not walking around feeling wealthy, really walking around and really experiencing, and not only just what you're feeling as terms of internal wealth, but are you so confident that you can actually reach out and extend and share that with another, and not the financial wealth that, hey, here you are, there's a homeless person, I'm going to donate $5 so you can get a burger. No, I'm talking about, can you feel so wealthy inside that you can give of yourself, that you can contribute and actually live that legend that Coelho's talking about? And so I really do believe that, the qualitative nature of the life that we're living is really where we're kind of leaning and trying to invite people to start to experience, and that money is just a tool on that journey. But what is that larger legend? What is that larger story that is actually going to completely reveal the true nature of the wealth that lives inside of you and that then gets expressed on the outside?
I like that. Do we have you have the poll that you wanted?
Yes, yes, yes. So we have a poll, and so this is a great time to do that. So we're gonna share a poll with all of you, and we want to hear what your answers are. So the question really is, what does living a richer life mean to you? And there's a couple of options that you have there for. So one is loving what you do, having healthy, flourishing relationships, currently pursuing your passion, or feeling good about yourself. So please let us know what that means to you. And so we'll just open the lines there for you guys to answer the poll. And as you guys are answering and thinking about that, I'm going to ask Tiffany the next question. So, what constitutes a healthy financial regimen?
So, there are a few things to me. Budgeting. Everyone has to have a budget. I don't care if you're Oprah Winfrey herself. Money is not a endless commodity. It's not something that you can use forever and ever and ever. Although you might be the wealthiest person in the world, it is possible to use up all of your money. Because if Oprah bought, 30 islands that were, $2 billion a piece, she'd be broke, So first, budgeting, saving. Saving is just, it has to be a part of, even like I said, if you are extremely wealthy as it relates to finances, still figuring out some sort of saving strategy. So budgeting, saving, investing. Money, unfortunately, we have something called, my mind is drawing a blank. We have something called, I don't want that recession. We have, of course it's going to come to me later. But basically, money loses value over time. And so if you, let's just say you were able to save $100 now, in 10 years, your $100 will buy you less than it does now. Just think about if you drink, I know they have these little quarter waters, if you go to like the little corner store. They're no longer a quarter. They're 35, 40 cents. Things like, ask your parents how much did their first home cost. I think my dad told us that his first home he bought was like $80,000. And that actually wasn't cheap now. Now that house is worth, probably almost $250,000. Because things cost more money over time and your money is worth less. So if you don't invest, the money that you have set aside and just savings is actually going to be less and less valuable. So you have to grow your money to inflation. That's the word. You have to grow your money to outpace inflation, because inflation means that money can do less over time. So budgeting, saving, investing, giving. I believe that giving activates abundance. That when you give, you signal to outside sources, the universe, God, you signal to everything and everyone that you have excess to give. That's a powerful thing. I have so much here that I actually have enough to give, whether that's time, whether that's money, whatever that is. So that's a signal, that you're putting that kind of energy out there in the world that like, I have so much that I have enough to give. So guess what? You're going to keep getting more. So giving activates abundance, and that should be part of your total money profile. Budgeting, savings, investing, and giving. And then if you have credit and debt, some system to manage those things. But really, those are the four core for a healthy financial lifestyle, doing those.
I would also add one more, if I might. I would say gratitude, right? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if all you have is 1 penny, if all you have is $1, just be thankful for that abundance. Be thankful for what you have, and then get very good at being able to learn the strategies to multiply what you have. Mm-hmm. But if you're not grateful for what you have and all you're doing is focusing on the lack of money that you may have, or saying, wait, maybe I have $1 million and I want 2 million, I should have 2 million, whatever that thing is for you, if you're not actually operating from a foundation of being grateful for what you currently have, it is very hard for you to be able to tap into the awareness that helps you generate everything else. Because your eyes and your mind will be trained upon lack, mm-hmm. as opposed to truly tapping into and connecting to the flow of abundance. So again, gratitude as well as generosity. I always call, actually, those two things you just spoke about, I call that principle the principle of G squared. Gratitude and generosity combined together are just two dynamic ways of really activating that richer life that we're talking about. So yes, I totally love the strategy that you just shared. And I think I'm just thinking about here. So I'm going to actually ask you the next question, and then I guess you can ask me the next question.
I think I'm out of questions.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, what we're going to do is we're also going to prompt people to, if you haven't done the poll, please do the poll. We want to know what your answers are in terms of what you believe a richer life truly means for you, because I know that it's going to not only help us, but it's also going to help you to find out where people are netting out on the call. So my next question to you, Tiffany, is what was the most valuable piece of advice you ever got about igniting wealth?
My mother told me, I remember I was like crying because I was in college and I wasn't sure what to do with the rest of my life because, they put so much pressure on you. And I had to pick a major. I think I was sophomore, junior year, and I didn't know. And I thought I might want to teach, but I wasn't really sure. And I thought, oh, if I teach, I'm going to be broke. I remember telling her that. And I'm like, I don't want to choose teaching because I don't want to be poor, although I loved it. And I remember she told me that if I do what I do and I do it well, that money would follow. And, it seemed like such a small thing at the time. And I remember being like, that's all you got? But it was the best piece of advice because she was right. What she didn't mean that I was necessarily going to become a millionaire off of being a teacher. But if I mastered whatever it is that I was passionate about, money would follow. And it did. So I became a preschool teacher and I put my 10,000 hours in. For those of you who are unaware, there is a theory that says in order to master something, you have to do it for 10,000 hours. That's about 10 years. So, that's why you see these young 20-year-olds who are like, on the pro tour for tennis, or Venus and Serena, because you see pictures of Serena when she was 3 playing tennis all day, every day. So by the time she's 13, she's ready for Wimbledon. So same thing in your life. What is that thing that you're putting your 10,000 hours into? And for me, it was teaching. It wasn't purposefully done. And this is one of the reasons why I've been able to grow the Budgetnista so quickly, because the 90% of what I do as the Budgetnista is teaching. And so here I was as a preschool teacher, which seemed so random. People were like, why are you here? You have your master's degree. What are you doing here? I didn't know. I was just like, I like it. But really what I was doing was I was getting my 10,000 hours in. So when I left, I had mastered teaching. And not only did I master teaching, I mastered a specific type of teaching, which was teaching to a population with no knowledge and bringing them to knowledge. So as the Budgetnista, this is what I teach. People who have no understanding of money whatsoever, I'm bringing you from no understanding to understanding. And also I was mastering how to teach in a fun and engaging way, because how else do you teach a 3- and 4-year-old? And so, there were all these lessons that I was learning. I had no idea. And so I'm like, I'm learning how to be fun. I'm learning how to be engaging. I'm learning how to teach. I'm learning how to check for understanding. I'm learning how to be fun. Fun, I said that. But so for me, it just really, that was the best piece of advice, is that if you do it well, money will follow. And now, like I said, the Budgetnista really does well, but it's really because of all of these things that I collected over the last 10, 15 years, inadvertently, really stemming from that great advice that my mom gave me. Do it well. Do it well.
Oh, I love that. Do it well. Okay. So speaking of doing it well, as it relates to the poll that we just took, 50% of you said loving what you do is what you believe a richer life means to you. So, and then the rest is kind of split between pursuing your passions and then also having feeling good about yourself. So those were the answers. But 50% of those who are watching right now feel that loving what you do is what it means to live a richer life. So I think we have one more question, and that question is what you have for me, Tiffany, right? I think that's it.
I would ask you, what is the most valuable piece of advice that you've received as it relates to self-awareness, self-worth?
For me, I think it was when I was in grad school, and I was doing a grad school internship with the New York State Education Department for Cultural Studies, and one of my mentors, she said to me, never put limits on yourself. The world is always going to be ready to do that, but you never limit you. And I just remembered how powerful that was for me because I really became engaged in being a no limit person. And that's what I teach people how to, what to do and how to be in the world, is really being able to what I call going beyond Z. Dr. Seuss has this amazing book called On Beyond Zebra that I love. And it's the character from that first book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. But he talks about how once he got beyond the letter Z, everything changed for him. So I always say that every single one of us, whether it's with your finances, with your business, with your personal life, there is a Z point that you have where you believe that you cannot go beyond. But if you just give yourself permission to go beyond that limitation, whether it's in your mind or whether it's out there in the world, you will experience a certain level of life, level of abundance, level of creativity, level of passion, forgiveness, completion that you've never known before. And so being able to get that advice when I was younger allowed me to go from being a grad student to then going and pursuing a career as a commercial producer, working at some of the top agencies and companies at Sundance, all these other things. And then when it came time for me to switch careers from being a producer in the world of commercials to then becoming a strategist, I didn't have that limitation most people would have had. And some people were like, well, how did you go from being a producer to being a strategist and then suddenly being a VP by the time you were 25 years old? I didn't have the limitations. And so what I try to teach people is that if you can just get the inspired vision, that why, that passionate reason, and then create a sound strategy, you can not only transform your life, you can transform your business, you can transform anything that you choose to transform if you just get dedicated to being strategic about it and creating a masterful plan. And so that piece of information about not placing limits is something that transformed my own life in terms of how I show up in the world. I remember, last year, I created this global day of activation in 2012 called the International Day for Dreamers, now known as World Dream Day. And in my mind, I had a vision that said, I want to take this to 5 cities around America. I ended up doing a 47-day road trip where I went to 25 states across America because I did not believe that I had limitations. And I, as a Nigerian New Yorker woman, drove across America by myself because of that piece of advice. And so I say to everyone who's listening right now, there's certain information that you've gotten from all of us sharing, as well as what you know to be true for yourself. Give yourself to move beyond your own limitations and start to take that advice. Give yourself permission to be a no-limit person. And once you start to do that, the whole world is going to open up to you. And this information that we're sharing is not just going to be, intellectual conversation. It really will be an experiential reality for you. And so I'm just so excited that you guys have joined us. And if you have any questions, we have about 3 minutes left. And I'm just going to scroll through. So if you have any questions, please type them in now. And we're going to answer 1 or 2 of them. And then we're going to be able to share some insights. But in the meantime, Tiffany, okay, Darlene, okay, preparing for wealth, okay, going beyond Z. I hear people liking the concepts we're sharing, the connection between being a preschool teacher and what you're doing now. And again, I think a lot of people don't, just to that point that you shared, Tiffany, is people don't realize that your entire journey is fair game when it comes to how you approach building wealth. You should look at everything you've done, whether that was, a lemonade stand, whether it was, shining shoes, whether it was like writing words, whatever you've done can be the access point.
Yes.
Able to live that richer life. For me, I was always the person that my family would come to for advice. Like, what should we do, OZ? And I'd be like, my 6-year-old self, I'd be like, what needs to happen is this. And then now I'm a coach, I'm a strategist, I'm that person who does this for a living because that part of me came to the forefront and I noticed it and I said, yes, let's take this somewhere, What do you have to say about that, Tiffany?
No, I was talking to my best friend today and I told her, I used to play school when I was a little girl, like all little girls, but then I taught Sunday school and I always was teaching. And, like you said, these are little things that, things you feel like they're so random. No, if you really took a look at your life, you will see that there is a reoccurring thread and theme from when you were old enough to look up that you were always this way. And once you make the connection of, like I always say, what are you? I am a teacher. Maybe you might be a healer, a preacher, a giver, a doer, a maker, happener. You have something in your life that you've always done. And once you so the thread is moving. And once you kind of get on the train with it, and you're like, oh my God, like the Budgetnista has done so well, not because I'm so amazing at all. It really is done so well because I'm on the track. The train has been moving, and I've been like walking beside it slowly. And I'm realizing, the train is moving in that direction that I'm going in anyway. I might want to get there faster if I get on the track. So looking at your life and asking people around you, what do you always come to me for? People are coming to you for the thing that you're supposed to be doing anyway. Figure out what that is. Tap into it. And you will shine. Like you see, I wish we could see your beautiful faces, but you see how me and Ozzy are like glowing, like, yes! It's because when you find that thing, it like seeps through your pores. You can't help but see it, feel it. People are attracted to you because of it. It's just an amazing feeling.
No, it's so true. I mean, even like when I work with my clients, whether it be for a business or for an individual, the first technique we really engage in is, who are you truly meant to be? Mm-hmm. And so you feel that in your body, you also engage it in your mind, and you start to create what I call the palette of possibility. Mm-hmm. Because every single one of us, it's almost like painting, and our choices are all the brush strokes. And so if you can just really, again, stop looking at it from an outside in, go inside out, mm-hmm. Identify what is that thing inside of you that is yearning to be expressed. I always talk about that, as it relates to BurnBright. And, part of the reason why BurnBright has been so successful is because it is really helping people tap into that unique spark that is inside of you, that all you need to do is figure out that strategy, figure out your why, and then once you ignite, not only do you illuminate your own life, but you illuminate the world. Mm-hmm. And so that leads us into some of the questions that we're having here. I'm going to take some of them. So Tony says, that dream tour across the country, that was inspiring, so true about limits. How does one make the shift from serving, giving, to monetizing, going from a nonprofit mentality to a profit mentality? Do you want to take that, or do you want? Go ahead.
Sure. Just because that's the shift I had to make. I worked in nonprofits my whole life. I never worked in corporate. And when I started the Budgetnista, it was supposed to be a nonprofit. And so in the beginning, I did it as volunteer work. And so now I had to come back to these same people and say, ooh, I actually kind of want to be paid for my services. It was really difficult. And so I did so slowly, and I started saying, like, do you have an honorarium? That's usually like $50, $100, $200. And then slowly but surely, as you get better and better, and then you begin to practice saying, well, these are my fees. And one of the best ways to tell people that these are your fees is to have them posted somewhere. This is what I learned for myself. So if you go to my site, thebudgetnista.com, you will see a little box that says rates and services. You will click on it, and it will show you transparent, this is how much Tiffany costs. So when someone says, hey, Tiffany, I'd love for you to come speak at my church, I say, I would love to. Please visit, link my services and rates to see what exactly you'd like for me to do or how I can serve you. But what I'm telling them is, I cost money. And so that was just once I learned how to do that, when people ask me for a service, first of all, you have to assume that they know that they're paying. Because if you don't assume that, then you put out the energy that like, oh, I guess I'll do it for free. No, my assumption is, even if you don't say how much do you cost, my assumption is you know that I cost money. And so, yeah, that's probably the easiest way is to first you want to build up your skill set. And if it's already built up, then you want to put it someplace transparent if you're afraid to actually say it, and just say, here's a link to my rates and services, and I'd love to hear back from you. And if you don't hear back, then usually it's because they weren't planning on paying you, which is fine.
Yes, that's great advice. I do also, again, just to be in time integrity, It is 9:03, and we thank you for those who only could make it for the hour, but for those who want to stay with us for this juicy jam that we're continuing on, we're going to stay on for a little bit longer to get through the questions that have been posed. But I'm going to take a stab at that question, because I think that, for a long time, because when I started BurnBright, I was a vice president in corporate America, and I was running BurnBright as if it was a nonprofit. So many people would say, hey, do you want to speak here? Hey, do you want to do that? And I would just give it away for free. And I didn't care, because my mentality was that, if I have a job that's already paying me very well, at that time, I was making well into six figures with the job, then I can afford to give it freely to the world. Mm-hmm. But what I started to realize is that if there is no energy exchange monetarily, people don't necessarily value it the way that they need to. And it's not about you making the money, it's that you actually do yourself and them a disservice if you don't find a way for them to find a way to give their own compensation, whether it's a bartering system, whether it's a financial direct transaction. There has to be some kind of transference of energy, because that's what actually helps to make people accountable. So I would say the first way for you to shift from that nonprofit mentality into the for-profit mentality is truly understanding that we do live and exist in the level of a sphere of energetic exchange. So there has to be some exchange. So once you get committed to that, you will realize that when someone comes to you and says, hey, can you do it for free? Then you have to be able to say, okay, fine. If I'm going to do it for free, then I need to be able to have an opportunity to either sell my services, or you need to be able to do X, Y, and Z for me. So nothing is really ever for free. There's always some kind of exchange. But I do believe that when you get to a point where you start to realize that it is not negotiable for you to not get paid somehow, that's when you will make that shift from doing it as a nonprofit, or that mentality that says, you know, I'm not doing it for profit, to I'm doing it to gain some kind of financial profit, but I'm also going to be generating a transformational value for that person or for that entity that is a business or a community. So it really does happen here. And then you can start to say, you know what? There are certain things that I will be committed to doing for free. So for instance, whenever a community comes and invites me, or, you know, to come out, sometimes I'll say, you know what, just cover my airfare, cover my, you know, cover my feeding, but I will speak to your community and I will do that for free. So you also have to be aware of where you can actually give for free, and then also where you do expect some kind of financial compensation. But it has to be linked to what your overall plan is. And kind of going back to what Tiffany was saying about, you know, getting clear about an audit, you have to create a plan, a strategy, whether it's a marketing strategy or a business strategy, in order for then, you know, in order for you to feel justified in charging what you charge. Because if you are just throwing out numbers without a clear sense of what it means to you in the larger, you know, in the larger sphere of things, the bigger picture, it's going to be hard for you to be able to make that, you know, request. So the sooner you get clear on what your business plan is, what your marketing plan is, what you believe constitutes what your hour and your time is worth, once you get clear on that, it becomes very easy to shift from that quote-unquote nonprofit mentality into a for-profit mentality. But I actually don't believe in either nonprofit or for-profit. I actually believe that everything should be about shared value. And so there's certain behaviors and mindsets that nonprofits should have that come from the profit world, and vice versa. Okay. And when those two really come together, that's when we get to that transformational realm where you're generating a profit, but you're also creating transformational value through your products and services. So I hope that serves you. Our next question is, what would you say is step one to building a wealth mindset? Do you want to take that, Tiffany, first?
Sure. Step one to building a wealth mindset is first that you have to understand how to live within your means. I know it seems so small because you're like, oh, wow, what does wealth have to do with living within your means? It's that you will never achieve wealth if you are spending more than you make. And it seems like, well, that's obvious, but so many people do not live within their means. So you make $10,000 a year, you live at 10,001. Then you make, you know, that's when you're a teenager. Then at 20-something, you're making $40,000 a year. You're spending, you know, $45,000. And as you get older and older, you make more and more, you start to expand your life, and it outpaces what you're actually making. And it's so strange because you think to yourself, if I stayed living the way I was at 25, at 35, simple apartment, 2 or 3 year old car, and I started making more and more, I could actually have this excess to grow wealth with. But most people just don't do that. And so asking yourself to live within your means, I mean, I live off about 70% of what I make. That's what I live off of. And I invest about 20% in my retirement, because you have to set aside something. There has to be excess left over for the future. Always remember this. It is your young self's job to take care of your old self. Your young self's job to take care of your old self. So that means your 20, 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old self is looking after, whether intentionally or not, you are looking after your 80, 90-year-old self. because your 89-year-old self can't get up and get a job, can't move quite as easily, can't secure employment and money for themselves. So who is going to do that for them? Is it going to be the government? Possibly not. Is it going to be your children? Who knows? Is it going to be your spouse? They may not be here. The only person you can guarantee is going to be there when you're 80 is you. Because if you're 80, then you're there. And so you have to take care of yourself now. And so that starts by living off of less than what you make. Just as simple as that. Cutting those things that are not that important. Your 80-year-old self, like I talk to my 80-year-old self in my head sometimes. Her name is Wanda. Don't ask why. But Wanda is sassy, and Wanda is like, Tiffany, McDonald's is not going to be the reason why I'm eating cat food when I'm 80. Make a better choice. So I have to tell myself that, like, Wanda is not living in a 1-bedroom, shanty and like not living a life. Wanda wants to live comfortably. She wants to relax. She possibly wants to live in a warm climate. So me eating out every day is not serving Wanda in the future. So talk to your Wanda, and she will guide you through. You don't need these things are not even adding to your life. There's certain purchases we make that don't even make our lives better. They don't even make you happy. So why are you putting your wealth toward those things and taking away from your future Wanda? So remember, live below your means.
I love that. I love that. That's a great, great, great answer. So I'm actually, because it's directly related to budget, I'm going to just let you handle that one. I'll handle the next question, and then we'll probably do one more question that we both handle, and then we'll close. So this question comes from Evelyn. I have a full-time job, and it seems like I have less freedom to do some of the things I want. Example, studying abroad for a month. Any suggestions on steps on getting there? So Evelyn, that's a great question, because I think that part of our biggest challenge in this day and age is time management and just really being able to balance all of our multiple responsibilities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you and the rest of the audience 2 particular strategies that I always give to people who are really out to live their best life and actually be as productive and what I call optimizing your life. So the first one is an acronym. They're actually going to be one's an acronym and one's a list. So the first one is an acronym called AIM, and AIM stands for always in motion. When you have an objective or you know that there's somewhere you want to go, like a bullseye, you have to think about what is my aim, right? Which is what is my goal? And then the second part is, what do I always need, right? Always in motion. What are the things that I always need to keep in motion in order to keep moving in the direction of that aim? So if you know that your goal, like you said, is, you want to have a lot more freedom in terms of time freedom, then you need to think about what are some things that I need to be doing in terms of saying no to or saying yes to in order to reach that aim. So that's first and foremost, because many of us are actually saying yes to things that we should be saying no to. And if we actually did say no to those things, we'd actually find that we have more time to live the life we know we'd like to be living. And so that's basically really important for you to first get clear. What actions that are not essential to you living that richer life, living that optimal life that is getting in the way? Because if you just uproot that, you'll find that you actually have a lot more time to do the things that you want to do. The second suggestion that I would make that's a powerful strategy is a technique that I started to work with clients about a year ago called the effort list. Now, I don't believe that to-do lists work. I believe that what ends up happening is we become slaves to our to-do lists, and we're mindlessly ticking things off, and then we're realizing that we just continue to add more and more onto this list. What I recommend that my clients and the people that I work with do is to create what I call an effort list. And an effort list is really a reinvention, a revitalized to-do list, where you actually look at where will I place my effort today? Where will I place my effort this week? And what you do is you basically take a piece of paper, and on one side you put, where will I place my effort, so the actions you need to take, and on the other side of that list, you basically put, who do I need to be? And so you start to tie your actions to your behavior, and you will find that you actually have a lot more energy and a lot more focus. So here's an example from one of the people that I work with around this creating effort list. So he would find that whenever he would go into a supermarket, he would come back out an hour later having bought up the darn store. And he said, I wish, Ozioma, I just had a better way of being able to shop. And so I said to him, what is the objective? Where do you want to place your effort? And he gave me his objective. And I said, now who do you need to be in order to do that? And I remember him coming back to me, getting excited. And this is like, a pretty masculine man. And he said to me, Ozioma, I used your strategy. And I basically said, I need, my objective or where I want to place my effort is getting out of the supermarket in 25 minutes. And I said, who do I need to be? I need to be a soccer mom with a lot on my list. And he said, I went into that supermarket and I was out in 20 minutes because he identified the objective, right? Where does he need to place his effort? And then he also then identified who does he need to be in order to accomplish that task at the highest level. If you ask yourself that question every single morning and you make a list, a very specific list about the actions you need to take and the beingness, right, the person you need to be, the part of yourself that you need to engage in order to do that task at the highest level, you will find that you will be more accomplished and you will also feel more refreshed because you won't have to just have this never-ending to-do list, but you're actually going to feel inspired because you're getting to operate from more parts of yourself and apply the whole totality of who you are to the task that you're engaging in. And so I hope that that serves you between what you need to always keep in motion and keeping that in the forefront of your mind, and then being able to really have a better sense as to where you're placing your effort on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. Okay, Evelyn? All right, so the final question that we're going to take on, okay, super advice, very insightful, thank you. Okay, is this final question of purpose. So the final question is, how do you really find your purpose? So I'm going to put that to you, and then I'll answer, and then we'll do a nice little close for the evening.
I don't think that you actually find a purpose. I think that inherently you were born to this purpose. What the question really, so I'm going to repurpose your question if you don't mind, and how do you remember your purpose? Because if I were to ask a 2 or 3-year-old if they could like really articulate, they would know how they feel and who they are and what they need and what they want, That's why they're so demanding. They're like, I'm sorry, no, I said milk now, But so many of us forget along the way, you're told that you're too smart for that, or you should try this, or that doesn't work, or there's no money there. And so you forget along the way why you were placed here. The further away you get away from your source, your person within. And so how do you remember that purpose is really, when I was going through a transition, whenever I'm going through transition, I have to get quiet. I'm like a chatterbox. A lot of Nigerians are by nature. It's just our way. And so I have to literally pull myself in and get quiet and still and allow my inner voice really to speak to me. And so that's God within, or whatever higher source, or like the universe, whatever you believe in, that allowing that voice to speak to you and through you, and figuring out like, I am here for a reason. And at one point I probably knew that and I've forgotten. So how do I get back to it? So the good thing is that it's there. But sometimes there's so much stuff on top. There's schooling, and there's your parents and your expectations and your friends and your husband. And, all of these things are like kind of silencing that voice. But if you can get like a moment to yourself, it took me a while. It took a number of years to really unearth that I was here to teach. And I had been teaching, not really realizing it. But as soon as the light bulb went on, I realized, oh, I've been doing it. And honestly, you're probably already kind of in your purpose in some way, shape, or form. Let's just say you even hate your job. But if you're a caretaker, right, that's your purpose here in life, and you hate your job, what you'll find is at your job, you're taking care of people. Did you eat lunch? Are you okay? You look a little sick. Let me get you something from my dad. You're doing it because it's going to ooze out of you. So if you're still in quiet, you allow that voice to kind of come out and kind of show you a reflection of yourself. And yeah, that's how you really remember your purpose. For me, it was just to get quiet and to ask, ask and you really shall hear, and and you really shall receive. And to ask that question, why am I here? What is my purpose? What makes me feel good? What do people come to me for? And dig deep in silence.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. For me, I always say that our life is a quest fueled by a question. And so what that really means is that there is a question that you are seeking to answer. And rather than ask what my purpose is, that question itself has become so cliche, and it doesn't have the same meaning and value that it had before. And so it's really about finding, what is that question for you? So for instance, I discovered my question by realizing that there's so much beauty and power in this world, yet people aren't really harnessing it the way they could to create the power and the magic that is possible. And so my question became, how can I help people make the most of this beautiful life that they've been given? And so everything that I do is about how do I help you uncover the beauty in your business? How do I help you unleash the power and the potential in your community? How do I help you show up fully in the world? That's my question. And by answering that question, I then fulfill what people would call a purpose. So I would say to you who are listening right now, what is that question that is seeking to be answered through you? That if you actually set upon the journey of answering that question, you will arrive in the land and on the path of living out your purpose. And so again, don't let anyone else ask the questions for you. There are questions inside of you. I always say our life expands or contracts according to the questions we ask ourselves. That's part of the reason why, I suggested this format, is because I believe that through questions, we gain insight. And what's most important is that you start to become aware of the questions you're asking yourself and use those questions to truly, 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 truly guide you on this dynamic journey. Because the question of purpose, it's happening anyway. But what's unique and specific to you? What is that light, that unique spark that you are meant to ignite inside of yourself? And once it gets lit up, the things you're going to be able to do in terms of living that richer life, creating valuable meaning, being able just to start a revolution, whatever that revolution that you're out to cause, it is there and available for you once you start to get clear on your question. So I thank you all for your questions that you've posed, Tiffany and I, this evening. Tiffany, it has been amazing jamming with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Ozzy.
Yeah, it's been a great experience, and so I really urge all of you who are watching now to join me and the next guest. Every Wednesday, I'm going to have a different guest that's going to be sharing some valuable insight strategies as well as free gifts. So speaking of free gifts, we did promise that we are going to be sharing a free gift, and so I will, I hope you see that gift, that offer that is being unveiled right now. Tiffany has been so gracious enough to make available the first chapter of her best-selling book, The 1 Week Budget, and I specialize in creating transformational toolkits for people's lives and for their businesses. And so what I've done is I am making available my transformation toolkit for you so that you can use it not only in the area of your personal finances, but you can use it to create that brilliant, powerful, dynamic business. That dynamic life. And then if you're interested in the business transformation toolkit, you can reach out to me on my website and we can engage further. So again, I thank you so much. Tiffany, I'll let you offer a closing and then I will wrap us up and send us out.
I just want to say thank you so much for spending your evening with me and Ozzy. We had an amazing time. I hope that you are just that much closer to living a richer life. And I'm sure we will see each other all over social media. If you ever have any questions, I'm the Budgetnista everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I welcome financial questions of how to take your life to the next level as it relates to your money. And thank you again. Live richer.
Awesome. Wonderful. And again, I am Ozioma of BurnBright, and I am just so delighted that you took the evening to focus on how you can truly ignite a richer life with Tiffany and I. And I look forward to connecting to all of you through my Twitter handle @BBLifeWorks, as well as you can find me, Ozioma. If you just Google Ozioma and BurnBright, you will find me. And so I look forward to connecting. I look forward to serving you. And I hope that, whatever you gained this evening, that it allows you to feel that you're able to show up more powerfully, that you're able to be more fulfilled, and that you're able to show up in a way that is a contribution and a testament to why you came, okay? Because all of us have something that is yearning to be expressed in this world, and don't let anything stand in the way of you being able to experience it and also share it with others. So until next time, may your inner light burn bright. Bye.
Bye.